Welcome in to another new podcast from Coatings Pro Magazine. I'm your host, Ben Dubose, and I'm the news editor for the AMP Publications team. Today, we're chatting with Wells Bullard, president and CEO of Bullard. Founded in 1898 and as the inventor of the original hard hat in 1919, Bullard is a globally scaled personal protective equipment manufacturer based in Kentucky, but also with locations in Singapore and Germany. Wells, thanks so much for taking the time. How are you?
I'm great, Ben. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I think a good place to start, if you could, just tell our listeners a bit about your career background, as evidenced by your last name. It's clearly very personal to you and your family. So just tell us some of the backstory, both for the company as a whole and for you personally.
Yes, my last name is not a coincidence, and it is very personal. So I'm Wells Bullard. I'm the fifth generation family member to work at Bullard. So as you said, Bullard was founded in 1898, so 125 short years ago, by my great-great-grandfather. We actually started as a distributor to the gold and copper miners in California and Nevada. And then it was my great-grandfather then went off to France. He was in World War I. He was in France in the cavalry. He came back to the family mining supply company and, went to his father and said, hey, the miners are facing very similar hazards to what we faced in the trenches. And yet they're wearing basically, canvas baseball caps. And so he, as you said, actually invented the first industrial hard hat, which basically was, it used a steaming process to quote unquote hard boil canvas caps, put an elementary suspension in there, a leather brim, and that allowed miners to actually have a hard hat, something to protect them from impacts in the mines. So we've been manufacturing then since 1919. I didn't join the company until 15 years ago. So I joined 15 years ago, and I've been obviously around the company my whole life and very proud of it. And I started in our factory. I started making hard hats. I started in production, and then I went into manufacturing engineering, marketing, product development, and business development before I became CEO 7 years ago. And, I was raised being very proud of the work that Bullard did. My father was CEO as I was growing up, but I also was raised to neither be entitled nor expected to work at Bullard. And so I don't know, I feel very, very lucky that it's my choice. I chose to join Bullard, and I do it every day because I love our customers and our teammates. And I feel so incredibly lucky that I get to go to work every day thinking about how to help others go home safely from their important work.
Absolutely. And of course, here at Coatings Pro within AMP Publications, coatings contractors, service providers are a big part of our audience, and you fit right in their wheelhouse as far as fulfilling their needs and what they need on a job site to get home safely, as you said. As far as generations of the company, obviously the needs in 2023 are fairly different than 100 plus years ago. So I feel like each iteration has a different set of priorities. So for you in 2023 going into 2024, what's your vision for the company now, and how has it perhaps evolved a little bit from some of your predecessors in past generations?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it both has evolved and hasn't. And what I mean by that is obviously the needs of today's workers are very different than the needs of workers, 100 plus years ago. But we've been providing safety equipment since before safety was required, right? So we invented the hard hat in 1919. OSHA didn't get signed into law until December of 1970. So we were protecting really progressive workers who really believed in the value of their workforce. And we started with head protection, and then we got into respiratory protection during the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge, which was actually the first construction site to require the use of hard hats, and they were all Bullard, and that was back in 1932. And there's still a Bullard customer today, and that's actually where we invented our abrasive blasting respirator, which obviously has evolved quite a bit from that initial solution where it was basically canvas with a glass window. It's evolved to be a much more durable, rugged, comfortable, easy to use product. So I guess what I'd say is at the core of it, safety is in Bullard's DNA. Like we've been doing this since before it was ever a requirement. We've been doing it because we believe that workers should be able to work productively and then go home safely to their loved ones at the end of the day. So our vision is all about advancing human safety to enable long, healthy, productive lives through innovative solutions. And we see our mission every day when we come to work is protecting workers around the globe so that they can do that important work and work productively and then go home safely to their loved ones. Now, with that being said, obviously, there's a lot of changes in terms of technologies that are available, material science that's available, the way that we're able to manufacture. We make everything right here in Kentucky. We have the most incredible teammates, and we make everything right here in our galactic headquarters in Cynthiana, Kentucky. And we're always engaging with our customers to understand what needs do they have and how do we continue to serve those.
Let's start with the hard hat because I think there's been a lot of evolution on that front from a technical perspective. It's essential PPE around the world. Our coatings contractors, many of them use it every single day. Can you walk us through some of the development over the years on that front, and I guess decades as well, and particularly in the context of those features that are particularly important to a user such as a coatings contractor?
Absolutely. So when it comes to head protection, we think about it an awful lot, and a lot of people who wear them every day don't think about them an awful lot. And
Right.
again, part of our job as the safety equipment provider is to make it easy for you to be safe, compliant, productive. So what people think about a lot with the hard hat and the evolution thereof is really there's a lot of advances in the material science that make it much more durable. The standards have evolved over the years. So
Hmm.
one of my teammates is the chair of the standards development body for head protection. And so we're constantly looking at what are these needs. So we've increased, there's high temperature and low temperature standards. There's different, you can have top and side impact standards depending on the hazards that you're facing. But it really comes down to PPE, personal protective equipment is only effective when it's being worn. Right.
Sure.
So it's only effective when it's being used. The instant somebody takes something off to wipe their brow, to, rub their temples because of a pinch point, it's useless. And so we really focus on how do we make sure that we have really comfortable PPE that people will wear that then also enhances their productivity, right? And it can enhance their productivity because they're cooler, because they're more comfortable, because they're not distracted by adjusting it, because it stays on your head. This is maybe really simple, but when you bend over, the way that our hats are designed, they hug behind the occipital lobe and stay on your head. And that's a real advantage to somebody who's, otherwise worried about cranking it down and taking time away from their important work. And so those are the things that we really consider. And then there's been a lot of evolution and discussion with hard hats, and as needs have evolved, as people, worry about making sure that they can integrate a chin strap where they can have
Sure.
face protection integrated, things like that. So we're constantly evolving with those needs.
So another important piece of PPE that pertains to our audience is respirators. And in recent years, there's been developments, certainly on the technological side, but also just in overall demand with the COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, that put a huge spotlight on what respirators can do. How has that side of your business evolved the last few years? And what are some of the key takeaways that could be relevant to our audience?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So obviously the pandemic impacted every single one of us around the world. And it all of a sudden made personal protective equipment, PPE, became a household term. People were talking about at the dinner
For
table,
sure.
which is kind of wild. We talked about it a lot before, but all of a sudden now our friends and neighbors were also talking about it. So I think it increased the awareness of the importance of PPE, of the impacts that PPE can have on just overall wellness, health, safety. But it also made everybody realize what it feels like to wear a respirator, and especially to wear a mask respirator. And it
Sure.
is a little bit taxing on the heart and lungs, and it can sometimes make speech difficult and communication a little bit difficult. And so all of a sudden, everyone was aware of what that experience was. And so we make positive pressure respirators. So we make respirators that are either using supplied air or powered air purifying respirators.
Hmm.
And so it all has positive pressure, which means it's not taxing your heart and your lungs. And it also allows for big viewing windows to help with communication and things like that. And so I think that it helped us actually tell that story a little bit better to some people, for them to understand, oh, I can be even more comfortable, perhaps, for depending on my hazards and the needs that I have. I can possibly be more comfortable and not have to shave and not have to fit test and do all these things with supplied air respirators and with that kind of freedom, if you would, of not having something
Sure.
directly on your face. But also to end. So we were really called to serve during the pandemic. So obviously there were a lot of our contractors, a lot of your audience was unable to go to work and do some work during the pandemic, which was really, really, really hard. And then there were other people who were absolutely required. Healthcare clinicians were required to be on site, first responders. So we also make fire helmets and thermal imaging cameras. So we protect firefighters as well. And they were all called to serve every single day, regardless of the risk. And so we, all of a sudden, our business, the needs of our customers changed and evolved to the powered air purifying respirator for healthcare clinicians. Just all of a sudden, we had to figure out, how do we increase our ability to get more to these really brave men and women who were serving, in the midst of a pandemic where every day was different and no one knew what the hazard really was. Every single day it was changing. And so we were able to increase our capacity. We're very flexible. So as I mentioned, we manufacture everything here in Kentucky, and we have a very flexible, first of all, the most incredible team of individuals who work at Bullard, and they have a lot of skills and a lot of flexibility, and they felt that real call to serve. And so our team did a phenomenal job of keeping themselves safe, so that they could protect the brave customers who are going to work every day. And then we found really new ways to be able to serve and protect our customers.
You mentioned thermal imaging in that answer, and I think that's noteworthy because for our audience, when people think of Bullard or any other company in the PPE space, I think hard hats and respirators are among the first things that come to mind, because obviously a contractor goes out in the field. Hard hats are needed across almost every job site, and there's a lot of tight, closed environments where you need that supplied air respirator as well. That's a key part of the PPE package. But thermal imaging is something else that you all offer that's potentially relevant. Explain its, I guess, niche in the safety protocol that a coatings contractor or service provider should be considering. How can that potentially be useful to them?
Yeah, so our thermal imagers are originally designed for firefighting. So we really got into that space by we protect firefighters with fire helmets, and then they were when the technology was declassified by the military in the late 90s. We then packaged it up in this really durable, rugged package that was really easy to use. So really what our thermal imagers offer is they offer the ability to be able to see differences in temperature, depending on the emissivity of the materials that you're looking at. But you can see liquid levels. You can see where there might be potential fire hazards in the facility in terms of ballast that might not be working. Things like that could be hazards ultimately. So, there are a lot of different uses. I will say that our thermal imagers are built especially rugged because they're to withstand very high temperatures for the firefighting industry, not to mention just the very rugged environment. But that actually translates quite well to the coatings environment if that's the appropriate tool and the appropriate temperature ranges to help people be able to see, again, those liquid levels, be able to see where they might be having heat escape or heat entry into their facility. So there could be lots of applications there.
Earlier in the interview, you mentioned feedback from clients. Let's talk about coatings users specifically, because I know you've got a lot of them that you talk to, you keep in dialogue with them regarding what their needs are. What are they telling you as far as their common pain points, their questions? What are their needs as we head into 2024?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, we are constantly engaging with our customers. We take a real pride in engaging personally, right? Personal protective equipment. So we're constantly engaging personally with our end users. And one of the biggest themes that we're hearing from our blasting and coating customers is finding and keeping good talent. That is something that they're all really struggling with. And I think that resonates across the economy. But in the blasting coatings market, it really is about finding and retaining that good talent. We hear about people swapping, talent that maybe is fine, but they just need bodies to do the work that they're doing. But that's where what we talk to our customers about in that realm is great. How do you attract and retain talent by giving them really comfortable PPE, right? That maybe provides a lot of cooling so that the job, it's a very hard job, requires a lot of skill, a lot of the stuff, but how do we make it easier where we can? How do we make it easier to make it where somebody doesn't have to shave their beard and not have fit testing? So we have those discussions, right? Because those are barriers to people wanting to enter the space, right?
Right.
The dirty secret about PPE, and I say this too often, is nobody actually wants to wear it, right? Like you'd rather wear flip-flops than a tank top, but our work environments require us to protect ourselves. And so how do we then, as Bullard, as the manufacturer, how do we make the most comfortable, easiest to use? How do we give you additional tools with the PPE, right? How do we make it where it's adding cooling, where it's increasing your ability to see without glare? How do we give you some benefit there? Eliminate any like sweating around your nose and dermal exposure, right? So I would say that this generation of workers is much more aware, and I think the pandemic accelerated this, but they're more aware of the risks that they might be facing in activities they choose to participate in, being work or free time activities.
Sure.
And so that dermal exposure, protecting your eyes, all that sort of stuff. So finding and keeping good talent, and then being compliant, right? So we hear a lot from our customers like, hey, just help me understand, like, here are the safety standards. Like, how do I make sure that I'm compliant, to OSHA and to other, standards and regulations? And then
Right.
also, how do I make sure that I have confidence that I'm protecting my team? Like, I have a responsibility to keep them safe at work. And so we have a really consultative sales approach. So we've got direct field sales out in the field, engaging with our distributors and then with end users as well, to make sure that we're helping them understand, how can I be compliant? How can I be confident in that compliance?
Yep.
Because again, ultimately, our coatings customers, I mean, they're really focused on how are they serving their customers, right? How are they being productive? How are they delivering high quality, on time, good work, ensuring that they've got the people to do the work and that they're promoting that. And so we think that our job is to help them be productive, help them be compliant, help them understand their needs, and help them be comfortable and have that peace of mind that they're delivering, that they're giving their teammate the right protective equipment.
Yep. On the materials and technology side, you've talked about this a couple of times. What are some of the trends in that space? Where is the market going in terms of new technologies in the next few years as we look to, not just what's happened since the onset of the pandemic, but what people are looking for the remainder of the 2020s and beyond?
Oh, that's a great question. Yes. I mean, I think everyone's always looking for lighter weight, right? So
Mm,
they're looking for materials that will provide the same durability and ruggedness. Again, some of our customers require head protection and respiratory protection, right? And then they require other
yep.
protection. And so how do you get that protection while also being as lightweight as possible? And so materials really can enable that a tremendous amount. How do you also make sure that you're delivering cooling, right? So people want to
Yep.
be, again, the workplace is often warm. Now we have heating and cooling options too, but primarily we hear people talk a lot now. In the coming months in Minnesota, they'll be talking about the heating needs, but they talk about being cooler because they're doing very active work.
Yep.
And so how do we make sure that we've got the materials that are moisture wicking, that are, making it easy, and that are lighter weight and easier to cool, and to provide more of that cooling to the user. The other thing that people are asking us about for a lot is kind of that, how do they get real-time information that they
Mm,
can use to make decisions, right? So we have an air quality product called the Air Guard, and it helps to make sure that it monitors the grade D air to ensure that it meets OSHA requirements, and then it provides insights into the quality of the air and makes calibration easier, right? So then again, that allows the worker to know if there's a problem. It'll tell them. It makes the calibration really easy. And then it also has a USB stick that allows the data logging to be really easy, so that you know that you're calibrating, and that you know what the airflow, all these data points, and that allows you to make better decisions as either the business owner or even as the worker yourself. So I think people are looking for that data at the point of use and after the point of use, to be able to increase their productivity and increase their ability to deliver for their customers.
So we're coming to the end of 2023. It's a normal point to do year-end reviews and outlooks for the future. I know Bullard's had a few new things this year. Most notably, Sightline got released in recent months. If you could tell us a little bit about Sightline. I know that's one of the new things that you all have offered that could be relevant to our audience. And then secondly, any other key takeaways from this year as we wind down 2023?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sightline that you mentioned is our newest. It's our newest soft hood. It's designed for use with powered air purifying respirators, which can be used a lot in the coatings industry. And it really it has fewer touch points, and it has a 300-degree field of view lens, right? So again, it
Mm,
gives you that feeling of you're not wearing anything, almost, because you can move your head and you can see. You've got crazy wide peripheral view, so you can see everything that you need to. It's really comfortable and also very stable. So we engage directly with users, which is just how we go about product development in general. But and we've designed it to fit a wide variety of body shapes and sizes, not to mention hairstyles and things like that. But it's very the great field of view. It's got incredible airflow. It's easy to don and doff, and it's very
yep.
stable and fits a lot of different people. Yeah, so that's our newest one, Sightline.
Yep. And then as far as 2024 and beyond, is there anything else that our audience might want to know as far as the outlook for you guys and potential developments on the horizon in the years ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I mentioned the Air Guard air quality monitoring there. We are obviously still very focused on the blasting market with our GVX and our 88VX, which are just time tested, really rugged, really comfortable, really easy to use, abrasive blasting respirators that enable the user to have really that total peace of mind as they're doing their important work with the durability. But I would say that 2024, like every year for the past 125 years for us, is really about focusing on our specific customers, the incredible work that they do in hazardous environments, and us being focused on how do we enable them to do their work productively and safely so that they can go home to their loved ones. And we have that luxury, being a 100% family owned company here in the USA. Like, we have this luxury of being able to really focus on our customers and our teammates and just deliver that for the future so that we can keep protecting workers in the coating space and beyond.
Great insight there from Wells Bullard, President and CEO of Bullard, one of the leading companies in the PPE space. Wells, for any listeners or viewers that may want more information from you all or to learn more about Bullard's products, how can they get that? I'm guessing it's as simple as the website and social media, but just use this as your forum to sort of plug information that our audience could potentially find out.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. Yes. So Bullard.com, www.bullard.com is a great place to go learn more. But I also encourage people to reach out to inside sales at Bullard.com. That's INSIDESALES at Bullard.com to be able to sign up for newsletters and get more information. We're going to be doing some webinars with some industrial hygienists to try to bring, again, more education to our customers so that they understand how to make the best choices for themselves moving forward. So that's a great way to sign up for that. You can also find your Bullard expert. I mentioned our consultative sales approach. Find your Bullard expert if you go to Bullard.com. Under the Contact Us button, you can find at the top, right there on the top bar, you can find your Bullard expert. And all of our salespeople are qualified safety sales professionals. So they really understand the full gamut of the hazards you're facing. They want to help you be as productive and safe as possible. So, and then LinkedIn, if you want to follow us there, it's under company/Bullard. So we're right there.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, that will do it for today. For Wells Bullard, I'm Ben Dubose. If you want more resources from us, coatingspromag.com is the website for Coatings Pro Magazine, and amp.org is the website for the Association for Materials Protection and Performance. All right. With the plugs complete, we will sign off. Thanks as always for listening, and please come back soon for another new episode.
Thanks. Be safe.